Chapter 5: The Weight of Legacy. As the weeks passed, Albus found himself settling into a routine at Hogwarts. He and Scorpius were inseparable, often found huddled together in the library or whispering in the back of classrooms. Their friendship, however, didn't go unnoticed or uncriticized. One crisp October morning, as they made their way to herbology, a group of older Gryffindors blocked their path. "Well, well," sneered a tall boy with a prefect badge. "If it isn't Potter and his Death Eater sidekick." Albus felt Scorpius stiffen beside him. "Leave us alone," Albus said, his hand inching towards his wand. "Or what?" the prefect laughed. "Going to call Daddy to save you? Oh, wait, I forgot. Daddy's disappointed in his Slytherin son, isn't he?" Before Albus could retort, a voice rang out. "That's enough, Finnegan." James Potter strode towards them, his own prefect badge gleaming. 5 points from Gryffindor for harassment. "Now clear off before I make it more." The Gryffindors dispersed, muttering. James turned to Albus, his expression a mix of concern and exasperation. "You all right, all?" Albus nodded stiffly. "We're fine. We don't need your help." James sighed. "Look, I know you're trying to prove yourself. But what?" Albus snapped. "But I'm a disappointment. A stain on the Potter name?" "That's not what I meant," James said, running a hand through his hair in a gesture reminiscent of their father. "I'm just worried about you." "Well, don't be," Albus retorted. "Come on, Scorpius. We'll be late for class." As they hurried towards the greenhouses, Scorpius spoke softly. "He's just trying to look out for you, you know." Albus grunted noncommittally. He knew Scorpius was right, but the constant scrutiny, the whispers, the expectations, it was all becoming too much. In herbology, Professor Longbottom paired them up to repot screechnaps. As Albus wrestled with a particularly vocal plant, Neville approached their table. "How are you settling in, Albus?" he asked kindly. "Your father's asked me to keep an eye on you." Albus felt a flare of irritation. "I'm fine, Professor. I don't need everyone checking up on me." Neville's face softened. "I know it's not easy, being Harry Potter's son. But remember, Albus, your father faced his own challenges at your age. He'd understand more than you might think." As they left the greenhouse, souls smudged and slightly deafened by the screech snaps, Albus mulled over Neville's words. Did his father really understand? How could he, when he'd been the chosen one, the hero of Gryffindor? The rest of the day passed in a blur of classes and homework. That evening, as Albus and Scorpius sat by the fire in the Slytherin common room, an owl tapped at the window. Scorpius retrieved the letter, his face falling as he read it. "What's wrong?" Albus asked. Scorpius hesitated. It's my mum. She's not well. Dad says not to worry." "But," Albus placed a hand on his friend's shoulder. "I'm sorry, Scorpius. Is there anything I can do?" Scorpius shook his head, forcing a smile. "Thanks, I'll be okay. It's just, sometimes I wonder if all the rumors about my family make it harder for her, you know?" Albus nodded, understanding all too well the weight of family legacy. They sat in companionable silence, each lost in their own thoughts. The next day brought their first flying lesson. Albus had been dreading this despite his father's Quidditch prowess. He had never been comfortable on a broom. As they lined up on the training grounds, he could feel the eyes of his classmates on him, expectations heavy in the air. "All right, class," Madame Hooch called. "Everyone stand by a broomstick. Hold your right hand over the broom and say, 'Up!'" Albus's "up" came out as more of a squeak. His broom rolled over half-heartedly. Next to him, Scorpius' broom jumped eagerly into his hand. Rose, on the other side of the field with the Gryffindors, had similar success. As they mounted their brooms, Albus's palms were sweaty. "On my whistle," said Madame Hooch. 3, 2, 1. The whistle blew, and they kicked off. Albus felt his stomach lurch as his broom rose shakily. Around him, his classmates were zooming about with varying degrees of skill. Rose looked gracefully overhead, while Scorpius hovered nearby, looking concerned. "You okay, all?" he called. Before Albus could answer, his broom gave a sudden lurch. He gripped the handle tightly, panic rising in his chest. The broom bucked again, and suddenly Albus was hanging upside down, clinging on for dear life. "Mr. Potter!" Madame Hooch shouted, flying towards him. But it was too late. Albus' fingers slipped, and he plummeted towards the ground. Time seemed to slow. Albus could hear screams, see the grass rushing up to meet him. He closed his eyes, bracing for impact. But instead of the hard ground, he felt something catch him, breaking his fall. He opened his eyes to find himself floating gently to the earth, surrounded by a shimmering blue light. As his feet touched the ground, the light dissipated. Madame Hooch landed beside him, looking shaken but impressed. "Excellent use of the cushioning charm, Mr. Potter. Though next time, perhaps try to stay on your broom." Albus blinked, confused. He hadn't cast any charm. He looked around and saw Scorpius lowering his wand, face pale but determined. The class broke into chatter. "Did you see that? Potter nearly died. But that charm, that's way beyond first-year level." Madame Hooch dismissed the class early, insisting on taking Albus to the hospital wing despite his protests. As they walked, Scorpius and Rose fell into step beside him. "That was amazing, Scorpius," Rose said, sounding impressed despite herself. "Where did you learn that charm?" Scorpius shrugged, looking embarrassed. "I read about it in a book. I didn't know if it would work, but I had to try something." Albus felt a rush of gratitude towards his friend. "Thanks, Scorpius. You saved my life." As Madame Pomfrey fussed over him in the hospital wing, declaring him miraculously unharmed, Albus couldn't help but reflect on the day's events. He might not have his father's skill on a broom, but he had something just as valuable, a true friend. That night, as he lay in bed, Albus made a decision. He would write to his father, really write to him, about his fears and frustrations. Maybe Professor Longbottom was right. Maybe his dad would understand after all. With that resolution, Albus drifted off to sleep, the events of the day swirling in his mind. He dreamed of flying, not on a broom, but on his own, soaring high above Hogwarts, free from expectations and legacy. In his dream, Scorpius flew beside him, and together they touched the stars.